So while we're waiting, any feedback from the debt-free class? Wealth Building 1, the class we had last month. Any feedback on that? Anybody?
It does work, okay? We started that process, about 4 months ago. We have since paid off all our credit card debt,
Outstanding.
okay?
That's huge.
And an automobile. It was
Wow.
about $22,000 that we got rid of.
How does that feel?
I'm sorry?
How does that feel?
Oh, pretty damn good, okay? Freed up about $1,000 in discretionary income a month.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Stuff works.
That's a plan.
Yep.
It worked well, good.
Yep. Now we're chunking on the, what do you call it? The mortgage. Using the same principles as what we've been learning.
That's right in our wheelhouse. I love that.
It's great.
But you know what, Paul, if you go over it, as you go through this, just keep in mind, my biggest question is, how do we get started? And I'll leave that for the rest of the discussion.
We'll get started at the end.
That works for me.
Okay, so we'll wait to the end to see the beginning.
Okay.
Okay? So why don't we get started, Nicole? You good with that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So right ahead, I'm gonna monitor from there. You're all-
So, these people who are joining in on Zoom and are walking in, this is good. The idea for this class, first of all, you all know who I am. I think you guys all know me. The idea for this class came from Gary Keller. He challenged the operating principles to create 5 millionaires in every market center. Now, how many of you would like to be a millionaire? Everybody. Okay. So I took it one step further and I realized what Gary's wish was, but it was not going to be attainable unless people were out of debt and saving money and had a plan. And so that's why I created these 2 classes. Wealth Building 1, getting out of debt. Wealth Building 2, now take that money, that $3,000 a month check you freed up. Now, what are you going to do with it? You put it in the bank, how much do you make? 0.5%, 1%. Investing is hard right now without high rates. Real estate's a pretty safe investment. So tell me what your opinion or what your idea of a millionaire is. How do you define a millionaire? How can somebody say, I'm a millionaire? What does that mean?
Physical cash.
There's one answer.
The ability to sleep at night and not have to worry about your bill. If money can fix it, it's not a problem.
That's one answer. A millionaire is somebody who, if you took all their assets and all of their liabilities and you paid off all the liabilities and you had $1 million left over, you have a millionaire.
Basically, debt.
Net worth. Basically, not many millionaires have debt. They're free and clear.
So going back to last class, there was something you said that has resonated with me and I'm still like pushing and pulling over it.
Uh-huh.
And you said something about being in debt is worse than being broke. Meaning,
Right.
if you have assets, pay off your debt. And being broke, levels the
Right.
playing field. But for me, like if we could pay off everything, well, aside from mortgage. But for me, I need that safety cushion of having just cash on hand because you just never know. Like
Well,
for me, it would put me, I
You're,
feel like it would put me
Right.
behind the 8 ball for moving forward with.
my answer was a simple black and white answer. There's always color to it. There's life. You need to have a reserve account,
Okay.
somewhat of a reserve. But what's funny, if you have a reserve account, you never have an emergency. If you don't, you'll have an emergency.
Okay, so that's.
But keep
pretty
in
much
mind,
that way.
If you don't have a lot of money in the bank, you do have approved credit with good credit. What's gonna be the emergency? What's it possibly gonna be? Think through what has been a crisis for you in your life so far. So, I always wanted a couple thousand in the bank, that's it, no more than that.
But you also have good credit as well,
But I
too.
have good credit, I have a $50,000 line of credit with Visa. If I have to borrow money, I can get it right now. But I don't ever wanna do that, or use that, it's for emergencies.
So it's better to have that as your safety net than
It's,
actually paying.
I'd rather have a reserve of their money than my money,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, so on that note then, if you, instead of having a large cash reserve of our own, would we be better off applying for like a HELOC or something against our home to have it as necessary and then take that? Let's say
No.
instead of having $100,000 cash on hand,
No,
how would you work that?
the answer, the philosophy we're trying to embrace is borrowing is not our solution.
Okay, but
Getting
not every
debt-free-
emergency is fixed with a couple $1,000s available. So I'm saying, what, if you tomorrow had a hospital bill that came up that was $20,000?
Right.
Then do you have cash reserve for that? Would you recommend cash reserve for
I
that?
call the bank, I call the husband and say, I gotta work out a plan with you to pay it monthly,
Okay,
until I can pay it all up. And I only wanna pay you interest on it right now, until I'm debt free. That's from last month's class. Pay your debts off, frees up money to pay that off.
but then you're back in debt for that. Okay,
No,
so,
no. If that bill came, you can't avoid the debt from the hospital.
right,
So now you have a debt. have to
unless you
deal
have the
with it.
cash reserves.
Don't borrow your way out of it. Structure it with the hospital that they'll take interest only until you can pay it off.
But don't
and
try
go-
to keep cash reserves for that kind of
I
thing.
keep
Invest
that,
that money instead.
I keep a cash reserve for other emergencies. Small.
Transmission falls out of the car.
Small. So in talking about where we are with money, the idea is to pay the debt off, create income, extra income to start investing. You can have isolated things come up, we have to deal with it. IRS liens or something comes up. That's case by case, how you handle it. Right now, in theory, just talk theory, not unique cases. We want to be, in our mind, debt free. Secondly, I want to have money and invest it, and where am I going to put it? So the very first step we want to embrace here is talking about money and being a millionaire. Is being a millionaire a bad thing? No. It's all about having the money and the good money can do, like Gary Keller says. We want to create that money. First step is having a vision. How are you going to do it? What do you want? What are your goals? Everyone in this room has a different idea of wealth and where we want to be. Every one of us. Some people want 10 million, some of us want 100,000. Big difference. Second step is having a plan. How are you going to do it? Third step is the execution. And under that, I put persistence, drive, focus, discipline, and creativity. You've got to keep moving. You've got to solve problems as they come along. Like Bill from the hospital. How do we solve that? In Keller Williams' belief system, we've got our Keller Williams Y4C2Ts, mission statement, vision, value, and our perspective as a company. I want us to talk about today our mission. Our mission statement is to build careers worth having. What's a career worth having? Something we enjoy, something that is productive, and it's very rewarding. Secondly, have a business worth owning. That's one I can grow to fund my investments. I want to grow my business. How about having a life worth living? Purpose-filled. What are you going to do with the money? Create a legacy for your family, help other people, have experiences worth giving. What would be a good experience you can give to others? Learning how to get out of debt and learning how to grow wealth in teaching others. That's a good experience worth having. You experience it first. And legacy is worth living. It's putting your family in a position that they're going to see something from you, and you're going to train them and teach them how to embrace this concept of don't borrow, save, and invest. Question: what are the two most important days of your life? You can't answer, Jack, you already heard this. What are the two most important days of your life? Any idea?
The day you're born and the day you figure out why.
There you go. Exactly. The day you're born, and then the day you figure out why you were born. And then you were born to be in this class learning this because of your family. Our goal in this class is I want to show you how to create $26,400 a month passive income. Can you conceive what that looks like? $26,000 a month, $2 million in real estate equity in 12 years from today. $2 million in equity, not a millionaire, billionaire. Okay? Double that. Own 10 properties. All properties are going to be free and clear within 12 years. The mindset is that you're an investor. You're going to develop a plan, be disciplined, develop a monthly system, and be disciplined. The Herald Tribune had an article a while back, and it stated real estate values have soared in recent years across Florida, most of the country as well. Investors view housing as their best long-term bet for money making. We all know that. Look what's going on around us right now. Prices are skyrocketing. For the third year in a row, more Americans selected real estate as their top investment over a 10-year period, outpacing cash, stock market, and gold and precious metals, according to a survey by Personal Finance Red Bankrate. So that's telling us, wow, real estate is the deal. And we are right in the middle of it. There's no better person in the world than you as a real estate expert to capitalize on the real estate growth.
Paul, when was that written?
A
When was
year
it
ago.
pub-
I think it was a year ago.
I'll look it up.
Okay. Nicole, can you hear me? We are not moving forward with the slide. So you need to come in and help me real quick. And Vicki, if you can hand that out, I'll start talking about the flyer while we're getting the projector running. We had trouble when we went to Zoom. Before we went to Zoom, it was running perfectly.
Here she is.
So I'm not going to slow down. I'll do this manually until we get caught up with the slides. So here, hand me over.
Yes, sir.
So as you look at this, the first item, there we go. Is it moving? Excellent. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
So the first thing to realize is what is your big why? Why are you born? Why do you get up in the morning? What makes you feel good? What's the motivation? John Bice's big why is one it just really resonates with me. And asked John that question. John said his son is autistic. John takes care of his son to the nth degree. And he has to leave a legacy for his son, because his son will not be able to fend for himself through adulthood. What an admirable big why. You have a big why. What are you doing? Your retirement. I just retired a month ago. Yahoo. This is great. I'll tell you, it's really good. I love it. And then my legacy. What I've created for my kids, I feel good about it. I have built some real estate equity and some savings. When my wife and I pass, our kids are going to take care of it. I hope they're not spending a month. I'm hoping to discipline them to follow in suit and train my grandchildren. So what is your goal? How's it going to happen? How much do you need to accomplish your goal? What's your plan? What's your commitment? It all involves this creating. How much passive income do you need a month? 5, 10? Can anybody live on under 5,000 a month here?
Not very well.
Not really well. You know, 10 years ago, yes, you could have. So keep in mind, as you're building your legacy right now, in your financial plan, you have to allow for inflation. It's going to be more later. A lot more.
Sorry, it's just interesting. So if your house is paid off and your car's paid off, you're saying there's people that can't live under 5,000 a month?
Think about that. Now, some people have insurances. Some people have food.
Kids.
There's taxes.
There's taxes on what you make.
It's about 30%. I get 3,500 a month.
There's things that come out of the money. So if you earn 5,000, if I'm in a 28% tax bracket, I'm going to lose a chunk of that. I'm going to be under
So that's not
40.
net, that is your gross, that's what you gross in the.
That's what I gross, not
Okay,
net.
okay, sorry.
But there are expenses. I want to travel. How much can I travel in 5,000 a month? Airplane ticket, hotel, food, car rental. See, I want to have a lifestyle that I can fund. It's more than just surviving, it's living, it's having fun.
And Paul, with a $30 trillion deficit, you know our taxes are gonna go up in the future, not down. Those days are over. You know,
Yeah, what is the country's debt now?
30 trillion.
30 trillion. 30. A year ago, it was 24. We'll get political. Okay, to earn 5,000 a month, you'll need to have $1.2 million in the bank earning 5%.
Ain't gonna happen.
Can you earn 5% in the bank? Never. Not now. Now, 20 years ago, yeah, you could have. When I got into real estate in 1980, interest rate was 13%. I mean, interest rate on homes was 21%. For my first 2 years, I never did a new loan on a sale. Everything was owner carry. Because buyers could not afford 21% interest rate in 1980.
What did the average owner charge for interest back then? Do you remember?
It was like 13 to
They still
15%.
charge.
They made a good return. Right. So I propose 3 ideas, 3 profit centers to make the money you're going to need to create to live on. Keller Williams profit sharing, building a real estate business to sell, and passive investments. On your profit sharing, if you add 1 person every year for 15 years to your downline, what do you think the residual income will be?
9,000.
9,000 to 10,000 a month. You'll be a millionaire in no time. You'll have your income you need just from Keller Williams, and it's passive and it's growing every year like the cost of living, because the people below you are growing and your tree grows. It's just an amazing program we're blessed with at Keller Williams. Number two, selling your business. Take your business to a fifth level. You guys all know Tony DeSello? Tony was his wife. Remember who his wife was? Diana Kokoska. She ran Mass. Tony sold his business in Boulder, Colorado when I was just south of him. He was number 2 agent in our region. He sold it for $400,000. He inspired me. 10 years later, I sold mine for $250,000. How much is your business worth right now? Make that a goal to build it, to sell it. Build it up. I'll help you talk about that if you want more input on that. So have a business worth selling. Passive investments, my plan, your plan. Whenever you come up, you have to have money coming in passively. How do we do that? That's what we'll talk about. We want to make it fun. So I'm hoping you guys all want to retire in 12 years or less. And you want to have that 2 million, you want to have 260,000 annually coming in. Now, everybody about this time goes, how am I going to buy 10 properties at 50,000 a property in 10 years? $500,000. Because if you look back 10 years ago, have you been able to invest $500,000 so far? Not many of us. So what we need to do is buy a property a year, 200,000 average sales price. First of all, can you find property for 200? Yes. You can. You put 40,000 down, it's 20%, there's no PMI. You borrow 160,000 and then put it on a 15-year loan. Interest rates will be probably below 4, maybe 3. Right now, just a little caveat, the government is spooked. Right now, an article came out 2 days ago that the government does not like investors buying up all the entry-level homes, taking it away from the public.
That sounds pretty political.
They don't like it. So what they're doing is they're raising the interest rates on non-owner occupied properties and requiring more down payment. That's their plan. So for right now, we're good, but I'm telling you, our government does not like us right now.
Hasn't it been like that? Isn't the interest rate for investment property higher?
About a point or so, but they're talking about creating a higher delta, like 2 or 3 points above the.
No, way higher. Way higher. Right now, if you get a 15-year loan, non-owner occupied, it'll be approximately the same as an occupied 30-year loan. It's real good. Everything I buy is 15 years. Everything, paying off, because the curve's better. So when you borrow that money, if you're at 4%, 15 years, that's your PI, 1184. Taxes, I figured roughly 1750, 145 a month. Insurance, 850, 71. It'll all be different anywhere you buy. 1,400 a month is the TI. That's the money to pay for that rental. Now, the rental income, this is really crazy in our market. A couple of years ago, a house like that, maybe 1,500 a month coming in. Now, over 2,000 a month. In this area, rents are in the high 2,000s, low 3s. 2,200 a month. I've gone to 2 property managers. They've both said a house for 200,000 in a normal area will bring in 2,200 a month.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. So just a couple of questions. So So the first one, obviously, this is gonna be a home, not a condo. With
No condo.
with
Good
all the
point.
Fees with all the. fees that
No,
are gonna go along with it.
Go ahead.
CDD, HOH fees.
Right.
Does it matter, for example, where this, like, does it matter in what kind of location this house
Yes.
is as investment? So
Yes.
You want it like in a kind of like a middle
right,
class kind of area, so you don't want the bottom, you don't want it at the top end, right?
Right.
You just want like an average neighborhood.
you have to be wise in your purchase. You wanna buy a home in a neighborhood that's going to appreciate, not a slum. You don't wanna be in the wealthiest or the poorest. You wanna be where people will rent, where families wanna raise a family, where you'll always have tenants. So you want a tenant-friendly neighborhood, wherever that would be. It does not have to be, wealthy. Just a nice, decent neighborhood. I always find when I'm driving around, when I see police cars and sheriff's cars in the driveway, those are affordable neighborhoods that are safe.
Exactly. So
They are.
the price.
I've noticed that. As far as apartments, and condos, I do not propose you buy a condo, even though they're cheaper. The HOA fees eat up your profit.
Special assessments.
You don't need that. And a special assessment. When they say, we're painting all the buildings, everybody give us $2,000. Wait a minute, that's my profit. I don't want to do that. Single family homes is the best way to go.
So also, so your properties that you have, were they in a certain, were they close to your primary
They're
residence?
everywhere.
So they were just everywhere?
Anyone.
So anyone,
In
so,
our location, you can buy a lot of homes in Northport
yes.
and Inglewood and all that down there, Port Charlotte, and you can go north of Tampa. You can go all around that area, you can find homes. Valrico, you can find property. Parish, all of this, there are houses around this.
Palmetto's hot right now.
Palmetto's got a lot of 200,000.
So, sorry, just last question. So the 200,000, like, that's a nice kind of target to, for example, to buy, to do this. How would it impact if you buy, let's say, a home at 300,000? Let's say your home is like.
It's not in the model. Try to focus on the model.
So,
In those, there's options for everything I'm giving you. If you go to 300, you have to now make sure the payments are covered with the rent to have a net. So follow my model, then you personally can do whatever you want. But follow the model to look at what we're doing and understand why I have a model. I'll show you as I'm going along. The rental income here is $2,200 a month, $26,400 annually. The positive cash flow, here's the model, $800 a month. I want to see $800 a month left over after everything's done. It's $96 annually. So follow these numbers. Those two numbers I'm going to be throwing out a lot in a minute. Memorize those two numbers. 8,000 positive and 9,600 annually. Okay. Here's the plan. Year one, you buy a home for 200. There's your loan. You're going to have 9,600 in rent. That's 800 a month for 12 months, right? And you're going to have 8,600 in what I call loan RD, loan reduction. On a 15-year loan, there's an amortization schedule. I took this loan and I calculated it out and I averaged $8,600 a year is what your payment is paying down. The PI part of the loan, the P part of the loan is lowering at $8,600 a year. So if you do nothing, your loan's gonna go down right here to 141.8. Well, the 160 minus the 86 and the 96 takes it to 141.8. But you can see every year you're paying on the loan, it's dropped. The loan I have on this building, same thing. It's dropping dramatically, and there's a curve on that. In the last years, it even dropped more. So when you understand how loans work, you make them work to your advantage. And that's what we're doing. Who's lowering my loan payment?
The tenant.
My tenant, not me. How much money am I putting into this now? Nothing. My tenant is. My tenant is gonna make me wealthy. Not me. I've already done my job. I'm gonna take 50,000 and parlay it into a fortune. Okay? Year 2, a whole year's gone by. I take and I buy another home for 200,000. Yes.
So you're putting your profit back into paying down your loan.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the secret sauce.
That's what I'm just clarifying.
That's it.
Okay.
Unequivocally, that's it. If you don't do that, we go no further. I'll go through all the rules when we're through. We'll cover all that. You'll get another handout. Right now, what you're seeing is every house I buy, I have the same formula. Except what's different in the second one I buy the first year than the first one I bought for 1 year. The difference is the rents I collected the first year on the first one went to that property. I buy property 2, the only thing I get is loan reduction of 8,600. At the end of the year, it's now a loan balance of 151. What do they do with the rent for property number 2?
Paid number one.
I put it up here. This is the discipline. I take the rents from everything coming in and I focus on one of my properties. I call that my oldest loan. That's my oldest loan. It's going to go away first. I'm gonna take the 9,600 rent from here, put it here. So this year, in year 2, I had 9,600 that came in from property 1. I had 96 that came in from property 2. The loan paid down 8,600 automatically. So now I only owe 114 on property number 1. Okay? Does anyone not see that? Yes.
So that's great. How did you structure it with an LLC and a trust?
That's at the end.
Okay.
I'll give you all the how-tos at the end.
Okay.
Focus on the formula right now, okay? I have 4 pages of how-tos at the end. Got it? So right now, focus on the formula, how we're doing it, because it's gonna get complicated in a minute. Year 3, I buy a home year 3. Loans paid down to 151.4 by the loan amortization. The property number 2, I took the rent from property number 2, I put it up here on property number 1. By the amortization, this loan now is 142.8. Property number 3, we started with a 114 balance. I took 3 rents, put them up here for 28.8. I have my loan paid out of 86. My loan balance went from 114 to 76.6. See that? Simple formula. Everything keeps going from here up until that's very clear.
Where'd you get the down payment from?
I'll get that in the end. What's the formula? The how-to is at the end, okay? I'm glad you're thinking, but hold that thought.
Robbing a bank, but that's later.
No,
So we
Okay.
can 7-Eleven stores.
we're moving on then.
Exactly.
7-Eleven stores.
Okay, year 4. I'm going through this slow I've gone through it fast before and I lost people. I don't want to lose a single person. Everyone I want to get this at the end. That's my hope. 4th year, we buy another house. How about that? Every year there's a pattern. We buy another home. And property 3 went down 8,600 with their loan reduction. Property 2 went down from 142.8 to 134.2 with this loan reduction. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rents with 38.4. And my loan went down. Now I only owe 29.6 from 76. I can smell success. I'm almost there. I'm going to be able to nail that year 5 on it. Okay, year 5, buy another home. Loan reduction down, loan reduction down. Now, I take this property and I took the rents from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rents went up here, and that came to $48,000. I only owe 29.6. So when I took the 48 and the loan reduction of 86, I have a free and clear property with 27,000 left over. Where should I put it? Let's put it on target property number 2. Now, I'm zeroing in on that property. So then 27 came down and applied to the 134.2 balance, plus the loan reduction. It's now at 98.6. We have 5 properties. 1 is free and clear. Now, what's going to happen next year on the free and clear property?
Sure, no.
We're going to get the whole rent. Full year. Year 6, bought another home. Paid down all these with the loan reduction. Number 1's free and clear. Number 2, got 1 full rent of 26.4 and 5 net rents, monies of 800 each. That's for 48 plus the loan reduction. We ended up going from 98.6 to 15.6 balance on house number 2. So we've been playing in the market 6 years. We're almost 2 free and clear. It's pretty good, huh?
In 6 years' time.
Now, year 7, buy another home. Keep coming up. We take all the rents. This rent right here on property number 2 was free and clear in like 2 weeks. Okay, we got rid of that. And we've got the free and clear number 1, number 2. We take that full rent, this full rent, 5 partial rents, a loan reduction. It's free and clear with 93.8 left over. That 93.8, that should be an 8. Came down here with loan reduction. Now we went from 25.6, 23.2. These were all the normal drops. So now I have 2 free and clear. The one where we owe the what year was I on?
There, that's it.
There. 2 free and clear and 1 down in the 23.2 balance. We're almost going to have 3 free and clear. Year 8, buy another home, and we have property 1 and 2 is free and clear. Property 3 is free and clear after we pay that down in a couple weeks. And that leaves us 5 additional rents coming in with 3 full rents and the loan reduction. We're free and clear with a net left over of 112.6. That 112.6 I put on property 4 with its loan reduction. I only owe 4,400 on that one. Year 9. I had 4 free and clear. I have 149,200 left over. And take that down to property 5. I pay in on free and clear and still had money left over, 32. I put in on number 6, I paid that loan down, I'm down to 93.4. I have 1 year left on my investment. Year 10, buy my last property. All the rents up here that came in, 5 free and clear rents and 5 partial rents. They paid down property number 6 and had 95 left over. That 95 went on property number 7, plus its loan reduction. I only owe 30,400, and then 3 other properties have mortgages. Year 11, now I'm 7 free and clear, 3 full rents. I have, after paying everything on property 7, I had 183 left over. I took it down, paid off number 8. I had 57.6 left over. I put that on number 9. That along with the loan reduction took it down to 76. Now the last year is 12. Everything coming in, paid all these loans off, totally free and clear, with 28.2 left over. So now, year 13, I see 264,000 coming in every year, and I have 26,400 every month coming in. Do you think you could have 26,000 a month coming in?
Sounds nice.
Do you think anyone in this office has got that? Do you know anyone who's got rentals? Mr. Dutoit.
Yeah, you got a few too.
I've got a couple. Steve's got over 30 rentals, guys. I don't know how many are free and clear, but the majority are free and clear, if not all. And then I Steve got. Yes.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Mhm.
One, what do you do about capital expenses? Because you know you're gonna have some expenses.
Okay, wait a minute, we've got 4 pages to go through.
I know, but it doesn't really factor in, like paying down stuff.
No.
That's where I'm.
Keep in mind, I'm gonna talk about all that in the questions you have. I hope I got every question addressed. There's no exact formula. This is not a science, it's an art, is the way I look at it. We're gonna have shades of color. And it's gonna be a different picture for everybody. Every property will have different emergencies come up. Some will have none, some will have more. Some will have a water heater, the others won't. Things like that. Some will have a tenant that trashed it, some won't. Some will have a tenant stay there 20 years. I had a tenant, I put her in there, she had 11 children. No one would rent to her. This is Section 8. I put her in there and I made an agreement with her. I'll partner with you on my home. The government's gonna pay your rent to me. I insisted it's deposited in my account on the first day of the month. I don't want to go in through you. Number 1. She agreed. Number 2, any repairs on the property, you fix them. Not me. I'm giving you a home with new carpet, new kitchen, new paint. It's perfect. I know it's gonna happen with 11 children. I know. No husband at home. It's gonna be trashed. She was the tenant for me for 8 years. Fixed everything. Never a problem. When the plumber came to take G.I. Joe out of the toilet, she paid for it. And that happened a lot. You can't help it with kids unsupervised running around, you know? And so no one else would ever rent to her. And I was very fortunate. At the end of the 8 years, I sold it and I made a nice profit. And I had more than that 800 free and clear from her every month. And I didn't do a thing. So everything will be different for you.
And the houses get inspected by the government.
Yeah, once a year, the government inspects them, should make it all presentable. I still wouldn't want to live in it, but it was habitable according to the government. Plumbing worked, electric worked, heat worked, all that. So now let's start getting into questions. Okay? I propose you open an LLC for your properties. Some people want to open a separate LLC for each property, or you might want to cluster them and have them lumped together. I lumped mine into here. Okay, I had Paradise Properties LLC. Put it in there. Vicky had a company called the same thing. Yes.
Isn't it harder, or at least a higher interest rate to get mortgages through the LLC? Or did you go ahead and get the mortgages through your own name and
Got my
transfer
own
them?
name.
Okay,
You could put them in an LLC.
yeah,
Difficult.
right.
It's business loans, investment loans. It's pretty much the same thing. It's so close. Talk to your lenders and which is easier, if they have a criteria.
I mean, I have, and I know that it's harder for an LLC. I was just wondering if there was a benefit to doing it in your mind.
Legally, it's probably better to have an LLC.
Transfer it later.
Okay.
Transfer it, yeah. Or you can create a trust. Put them in a trust.
That's what I do. Everything's in the
By
trust.
the way, this is a side note. When you sell a property, and every loan today is non-assignable. It used to be, FHA and VA were fully assignable, $45 assumption fee, no qualifying. Can you imagine that? A $400,000 VA loan, I can just assign it to Vicky and I'm gone.
Well, banks were making 18-20%, so they take the
See?
risk.
Now, the way we got around that to assign them is if I put the money in a trust and then I make Vicky part of my trust, she can own the property, get all the benefits, and it's in the trust, no problem. This is how probably 99% of all the mega yachts are in the world.
Which is the show this weekend.
A $10 million yacht is in a trust. You can sell that $10 million yacht by bringing somebody in a trust and not pay sales tax. Didn't know that, did you? It's done all the time.
They're like, hey, when you get a $10 million yacht.
So when you get a $10 million yacht, I'll show you how to sell it. Okay, open an operating account. I like to have $5,000 in there. That's my magic number. You can have your own magic number. I figure with 5,000, I've never had to get more, ever. I feel comfortable, I got enough money to handle an emergency. Every month, big rule, only pay the required PI payment. Every month. Pay the required payment. Because if you've got 10 properties, you don't want to be paying 3 or 4 of them extra money. You're only paying your extra money to one, your target property. I total the sum up of everything, pay my expenses, net proceeds, 5,000 in the balance. I send the net above 5,000 that I've got in this account. I send that net to my principal balance. That's your formula. Make sure you always have 5 left over. Strict rule, you cannot take out any proceeds or anything except paying down the line on that one house you targeted. You can't take a vacation. You can't buy a car. No. You're restricted from fun until we get these things paid off. It's got to be a discipline. Okay? Because if your spouse or your partner wants to go spend that money you're making, it isn't going to work. You've got to make sure everybody's on board. We're doing this together. About $1,500 a year is what I consider miscellaneous repairs, lots of rents. I average that over my properties. It seems to work fine for me. It's like I owe 20% a year in income tax. I'm in a 28% tax bracket maybe. I may end up paying 20. No matter what I do, I end up paying 20.
That's bill property, right? Yeah, that was-
No, per my personal income tax.
No, he's talking about the 1,500 per property.
Yes.
1,500 of property, right, per property.
He's just aggregating some are more or less.
Right, right. That's just what I get.
Yeah.
Okay. You might have another number. Annual contribution. You have to come up with $40,000 down payment and 10 in closing costs and upgrade. You have to come up with $50,000. That's 500 total investment. How are we gonna get 50,000? Funny you should ask. I have an answer. If you invest 500,000 and your annual return is 264 a year, you're making 53% a year on your money. Where else can you make that kind of return? Anybody, anything. Not factored in are the additional benefits. What are additional benefits you're gonna make on this investment?
Tax benefits.
Increase in value.
First of all, the principal, you're gonna earn the equity growth when you buy it, because your tenant's paying down the principal, paying off the loan. It's amortized. Tax benefits, if you're in 28% tax brackets, you depreciate the improvement over 27 and a half years, you write it off. You will get on this house a 54 tax write-off of your income. The first $5,400 of your income is tax-free. You don't pay taxes on it. How do I calculate that? If it's a 200 property, they will not let you depreciate land. That's roughly 25% of the value. The improvement of 150 divided by 27 and a half gives you that 54 number. That coming into you, meaning you don't have to pay taxes, is a real savings to you of $1,527, because that's what you're paying taxes on, the 54. Any questions on that? The 1,500 is what you're not having to give the government for owning that home. You got a tax write-off. That's your write-off. That's money in your pocket. Now, the interest, you're also paying interest on the loan. There's another $1,792 interest. We have principal reduction. We have tax benefits. We have interest. Plus you write off any of the repairs. There's tax deduction on them. I don't even know how much they are. $1,500 a month, a year, whatever. You're gonna have write-offs. Appreciation, big reason to own property. What's it gone up in the last year? If you'd have had 10 houses and owned them this year, how much would they have gone up? 10, 15, 20%? Let's just calculate 5. Let's just say average 5%. That's on a $200,000 home. That's $10,000 a year. When you own 10, isn't that $100,000 a year you're making on your property? It's going towards your wealth. 10 years, you're a millionaire just from owning the houses. See, you can't argue with this. And do we see it go below 4 a year? Rarely, because it's always going to be picked up. Average at least 5. I'd say we're averaging 7 to 10 in the last 10 years.
The trend graphic report that came out for Sarasota and Manatee County, I should get copies and hand out to everybody. It's pretty amazing.
We live in a great location, you guys. Things are going up. So it gets better. What if you compound that real world? Year 1, it goes up 10,000, that makes the value of the home 210, right? Year two, that goes up 5%. That means you add another $500 to the 10, goes up 10.5. Now you're at 220, 500. See how it keeps building and building and building? This is what happens when we get into debt. We owe money, and then we owe money on the money we owe. We're compounding in the wrong direction. This is compounding in our favor. It's awesome. Here's the answer you've been waiting for. How to do it. If we do 36 sales a year, and the average price is $250 a sale, stop right there and say, is this doable? 3 sales a month. Is anyone in this office doing that? Probably a third of the office is doing 3 a month. Maybe half the office is close to 3 a month.
Well, they're also selling more than 250 too.
And not more than 250. 1 in 750 is same formula. So if you average 250, what's the average price in liquid range? 325, 350?
350, probably closer to
Yeah,
350
okay.
right now.
Okay, so 2.5 or 2. 2 sales a month can get you the money you need. Here's how. I'm selling a 250 home at 3%. The GCI on 36 sales a year is 270,000. Paying Keller Williams their cap, 18 and 3, is 21,000. Taxes of 20% is right around 54,000. Living expenses, 25% is 60-75. Can you live on 60-75 a year? How about business, to run your business? I figured 25%. Can you run your business on 25? Can, yes. Marketing, signs, all that. Investment property money, 50,000. That means after you pay after you expended all the money, you have 10 left over for miscellaneous. Any comments on that? Is that wrong or is that doable?
Gives a whole new reason to get to 3 sales a month.
Do you see how close you are to the finish line? By the way, Andrew Pepper came up to me this morning and told me that he wanted me to know, by doing the programs and the training he's getting in Keller Williams, he has 9 pending right now, waiting to close. Because he's doing the model. 36 sales, it's not that hard, you guys. We can do that. We have to work hard, but it's not complicated. So in conclusion, buy 1 home a year for 10 years, 12 years to pay them all off, a lot of income, a lot per month, create passive income, you're debt free, you work on paying off your home now, and you have a legacy. Questions?
Also, the account that you open, when you open an operating account, are you buying all the properties just for that one account, all the money is going back into that account?
I keep it simple.
Yeah, so one account, using that account for everything, it's going in, coming out.
I have a real estate account. You know, it's what you can do however you want it. You might want to have separate accounts. It's your bookkeeping that's important.
So you
You
just
could have a ledger.
I mean, as from a liability point of view, I know lots of people say let's just do separate LLCs, but I mean, it is a lot easier and cleaner in a lot of ways, just have one account.
Yeah,
right?
it's
A lot more
certainly-
expensive,
And you
a lot
can
more
start-
expensive to file them every year too.
Yeah.
You gotta file tax returns on them all. I want my life to be simple and easy. I don't want complex. I want to set a system up that when it repeats, it keeps working.
But when you're putting the money back into the loan account, is it automatically adjusted or do you have to notify them that this money is, you want the money to come with the
Okay,
capital?
that's a really good question. When I'm paying off loan number one, I learned the hard way, when I sent the money in every month, the bank somehow made a mistake and didn't get it put in the right account, and it went all over the place. So I would do it quarterly, with two checks in the envelope. One is my PITI payment, and one is maybe for a round number like $30,000 with an instruction. Please put this $30,000 against my principal balance.
And it has to be on the check, it has to say
So you have to-
principal payment
Pay
only.
my principal balance.
You have to tell them.
And you have to know which bank you're dealing
I
with.
had them putting them in my payment account, like saving up for my next, thinking I was making a double payment.
That's
No,
right.
no.
So that would be to the lender.
Simple.
To the
Online
particular
payments,
lender.
usually you can check where, like you pay your mortgage online, oftentimes there's just,
Yeah,
Check.
that's how mine is set up.
yeah.
I can go in, I can actually make an additional principal payment, just not.
Great, so
You
online
do it in the
payment.
middle of the month, and it applies immediately.
Spending in checks
It's
is,
good.
is the only way.
Not all banks accept it on a monthly though.
You were
Some-
saying that last time, yeah.
Yeah, you have to ask them because.
It's a lot of work for them.
Well, there's another
So that
factor.
used to punish you, they would punish you penalty fees if you're paying the principal.
Okay, they pay more than 20% a year, but here's something just from mortgage perspective, because that's the space I'm in. Aggregately, to be honest, whether or not they apply it as advance payments or principal won't change the dynamic that much, and here's why. They no longer recast loans. So it's not like your credit card where now your interest is predicated on what you owe. This is already cast in stone. But amortization schedules are not based on payments, they're actually based on balance points. So when you can achieve that balance point, you've already eliminated all the payments and principal interest that otherwise would have taken to make that payment. So your position is going to be negligibly the same regardless, because they don't recast the loan, and therefore the interest would be
It's
assessed.
just easier to follow Paul's
Correct,
plan.
it's easier to follow it and track it for sure.
So, yes, Tracy,
If you wanna comment on that, then go ahead.
go ahead.
Just come back to me. Okay, so I understand why you don't like condos because of all the fees, but then you didn't mention any concern for HOAs. I would assume that preferably you'd like places without an HOA or
Preferably no
high.
HOA. Think of HOAs, think of your perfect.
So do you deal with that? Do you have any certain like rules that you follow for?
I don't want it to be astronomical. I don't mind paying.
Let the client cut the grass, right, Paul?
I don't mind paying $100 a month, but I'm getting $100 a month worth of something. Are they, let's say I'm paying $150 a month for a villa. That's all, $150 a month. And it's a maintenance-free villa, and they're doing all the lawn work for me. Okay. I'm getting a return on my money.
So
That's
you'd be
good.
okay with a villa or a townhome, but not a condo then?
If there's no other fees. But the problem with a villa and a condo, is you have condo fees.
Right.
You have HOA fees and condo fees.
You just have to know the association you're getting involved with. Some of the associations pay your cable bill
Right.
And water.
Right.
and water and
You
sewer.
get something for your money.
Trash.
I don't like
So
that.
do you add that into, like, now you charge a little more for rent
Who's
because,
paying for it?
because,
Who's
It's-
paying for it? Is your tenant paying for it or are you paying for it?
Okay,
okay,
when you get into an isolated example,
now I
there's
understand.
many factors. Can you charge from it for your tenant? I don't know if you can get a net $800 a month, that's all you want. If you can net $800 a month, you can do the formula. If you can't, that's why we don't want to do that. I can't net $800 a month on a $200,000 property and pay HOA.
Do you have a rule for when you decide to sell off a specific home?
Yeah, when it's a pain in the butt. I think
I just didn't know, like, if it's worth
Yeah,
X
I
percent
always
more
try
than
to
you
run.
paid,
Like, when I
or,
Get rid of the rent to the liver. When it's just constantly a problem, and I always get bad tenants, and things break every other week, I think it's time to buy something newer. And I trade up, so to speak. That's not bad talking about.
Well, there's another question. So did you do most of the maintenance yourself? And secondly, if you did, how long did it take you to get into that kind of groove with the rental contracts, dealing with the tenants? Like, how did you deal with that? Did you do it?
I did most of the repairs myself.
yourself?
Because I
And
love
also,
doing
on the rental contracts, you did
it.
yourself?
I did my own rental
Oh,
contracts. I do my own leases, you can get them online.
yeah.
And there's tricks to being a good landlord. I had a philosophy with my tenants. I told them, I will be the best landlord you've ever had. If you'll be the best tenant I've ever had. And we're gonna have a great relationship. I mean, my wife goes as far as when we have somebody come in or rental, she's got flowers on the countertop for them. And some champagne in the refrigerator when they move in. Their mind is already set, these are good landlords. I don't ever get problems. I get people apologizing to me if a light bulb's out. I hate to bother you and tell you. I mean, they're that good at tenants.
So Paul, do you never deploy the use of a management company unless it was a very distant
Yeah,
property or
Geographically, I'll use a management.
as long as the metrics work? So.
Yeah, and now they return, and I don't want to talk to them.
Right, exactly. Call this.
So I delegate that out. Right. That's the game. So let me take this moment. I have two more things to go over with you, so sit tight for a second. I want to introduce somebody, Vicki Kaiser, tipped me off on this gentleman. Just met him this morning, Rich Schaefer, who came all the way across the state to be with us today. And coincidentally, he's doing a lot of what we just talked about. And I'm gonna let him give you a little bit of background on who he is and his company. And if you have an interest, there'll be contact information to talk to Rich. But he is doing somewhat what we're talking about here at a higher level, at a more efficient level. And you may decide you want to give Rich a call. So with that, Rich, come on up and take a minute
Thanks so much.
and tell everybody who you are.
Hey guys, my name is Richard Schaefer, as you said. Yes, I came from Boca today, but my mom lives in Lakewood Ranch, so it's kind of a twofer for me. I'm originally from Michigan, but I've been a financial planner for 30 years. So I've had brokerages in insurance, securities, mortgage, real estate, title company, you name it. So you have a little empathy. At one point, I had 13 licenses. So imagine the CE and the bonding requirements of 13 licenses. That is quite a pain. But about 15 years ago, I was fortunate to be introduced to a technology that helped to create the opportunity to accomplish this very sorts of things. So, but I want to ask you this. This is a probably important question as he was presenting. First of all, I love people that are passionate about being a better steward of your money, budgeting your money, getting out of debt, and so forth. The Dave Ramsey's of the world, I've been on his radio show. I love the fact that they endorse that. But I want you to think about something, and I've got to be direct with you so you can kind of get the point, okay? So you don't have your feelings hurt or anything like that. Every January 1st, there are two top New Year's resolutions. What are they?
Lose weight.
Save money.
Fitness and finance, right? Lose weight, get in shape, get out of debt, and save money. Why are they the same two every year?
Because we can do it.
Correct. They're important, and because we fail. Now, you know the expression, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan, right? Here's the reality. First of all, that strategy is phenomenal. But have you ever, how many of you don't understand that if you eat less and exercise more, you'll lose weight? Right? Everybody got that one? Why is it so hard? Yes, we lack discipline. Yes, they market too much good food on TV. But at the end of the day, my dad used to say this, you know, you're getting older and you start quoting your parents. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? But Dad, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Well, great. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. What about finances? Why is a budget so hard to stick to, right? If we spend less and save more, we should never have a single ounce of debt ever. But that's not the real world, right? So I'll give you an example because he queued it up for me perfectly. So I drove over here from Boca today. My mom lives in Lakewood Ranch. I've been here 150 times. I could drive here with my eyes closed. I know exactly where my mom lives. But guess what I do every single time I get in my car to come over to see my mom? In my car, I click mom's house in the GPS. I don't do it because I don't know how to get here. I do it for two reasons. One, I don't want to think about it because I'm making calls and I'm running late or whatever I'm doing work-wise. But the other reality is just because back in the day when I was a kid in the back seat, what does every kid ask their parents on every single trip?
When we get there.
Are we there yet? Guess what your parents do when you get older? Well, my mom is always planning something, dinner or something for me, and I'm always running late. So she always goes, when are you gonna get here? When are you gonna get here? And back in the day, I'm like, I don't know, I'm about a third of the way there. Now, this is really important, and I hope this resonates with you. Here's the problem in the real world. In the real world, it's not just from point A to point B. There's something called traffic and weather and car accidents, especially in Florida as a general rule. The West Coast, the East Coast is even worse, by the way, because all the New Yorkers live there, they drive on maniacs. So the traffic, we have traffic, weather, car accidents, railroad crossings. I stopped and got something to eat on the way here, stopped and got some gas, stopped and went to the bathroom. So in the real world, what did that just do to my ETA? It extended it, but here's the difference. Now when my mom says, when are you gonna be there? I say, I'll be there in 47 minutes. How does that change my plan? I now can absolutely adjust and adapt. And if I miss my turn, what does GPS do? Recalculate, recalculate, recalculate. So everything he showed you here is mathematically perfect. But in the real world, does your income ever change? Like only about every other month, right? But even if your income stayed exactly the same, which it won't because we're all in sales, but let's say you had a job and your income stayed exactly the same. You could get a bonus, you could get a tax return, it could change a little. But what is an absolute guarantee that's going to change? Expenses. How many of you have children? That's a guaranteed unexpected expense every day, right? If the car breaks down, the washer goes on the fritz, the kid needs braces, etc. So here's the problem, and this is having been a financial planner for 30 years. The reason that plans don't work is because they're not fluid and dynamic and adjusting and adapting in real time. Because in the real world, expenses change all the time and income changes all the time. But financial plans are predicated on the fact that you're going to make this, you're going to spend this, it's never going to change, and everything's going to be perfect. But what happens in a diet the first time you blow it? You're like, screw it. I may as well have the chocolate cake. I'll start again next month. You know what happens to our budget? Exactly the same thing. Here's the last thought. My undergrad in psychology, and I remember something that stands out to me now, which I never thought I would use in business, but it's perfect now. Part of the reason we have such a problem with food and money is because we have a very unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship with both. And here's why. We associate eating with pleasure and dieting with pain. We associate spending with pleasure and saving with pain. Now, that's why it's called retail therapy and so forth. So what happens is every time you have a tragedy, a stress, a disappointment, or a struggle, which is only every other Tuesday, you're going to go back to what brings you what? Pleasure, eating or spending. So you add that to lack of discipline, over marketing, and no strategic dynamically adapting plan, you're in trouble. So what we created was the ability to have something called financial GPS. Now, as realtors, how many of you use GPS? Okay, and I'm sure it's all of you, come on. And here's the reality. There was a time before our day where the only way you could navigate, or tell time for that matter, was a sundial, way before our time. Then there was something called a compass, right? My grandfather always had a compass on the front of his dashboard. How many can relate to that, okay? Then we had maps. They were very crude. Then we had something called Tom's Guide. Anybody know about Tom's Guide back in the day? But then we had MapQuest. That was the first thing realtors started using, and it was so cool, but it was horrible. Like it would tell you to turn, but is it turning right out of my driveway or at the end of the street? But you still had to have access to a computer if you lost your way to reprint it. What does GPS do better than anything else? You miss your turn, recalculate. Railroad crossing, et cetera, et cetera. Mr. and Mrs. Kleiner would be 3 minutes late. That's a much better than not knowing when you're going to be there. What if there was a way that we could literally build a system that would be GPS for your money, financial GPS? It would literally take into account every debt you have, every interest rate, every balance, every payment frequency of every dollar you have, and literally tell you specifically to the penny, to the day, exactly which debt to pay off, how much you want. And when you go to, what do people do a lot of? They talk a lot about payment, right? How many of you are married? Okay. You ever have your husband, I'll pick on men for a second. And they're like, Paul, I really want to buy that new boat, but honey, it's only $175 a month. Have you ever heard that kind of conversation?
Behind payments.
Not only is it not $175 a month, it's not even $8,000. It's really $13,327.11, even if you paid cash, because that is now the opportunity cost associated with making that decision. But imagine now if every decision you made in real time, it would tell you the day, month, and year you'd be out of debt, how much interest you're scheduled to pay, and how much you currently save. And in real time, it constantly adjusts. I'll give you one last example. On the diet example, and if I ever figure this out, I will never know any of you, I promise you. I'll be living on an island. Pretend for a second, take your pen, do you mind? Okay, so let's pretend for a minute that this is a magic fork, okay? Theoretical. And every time you took a bite of food, there'd be a gauge on the side of that fork, and it would tell you exactly how many calories that bite of food represented. And then you can flip it over and it'd show you exactly the picture of what you'd look like in 90 days if you kept eating that. How many think that immediate pain? Exactly. How many people think that immediate pain and pleasure would change your habits? So the number one thing our system does is this is yours, is it helps you actually do that. So this strategy, I know this is gonna sound weird, please don't make fun of me. I was getting the Wall Street Journal in middle school. Like when I first learned the time value of money and the rule of 72, my dad was a construction guy. I was at coffee breaks on the drywall showing rule of 72. People thought I was out of my mind, right? They're like, what's wrong with your son? Okay. But the reason I got into financial education is because nobody knew had any money. And so to me, it was my way out. So that's why I started getting all these licenses and so forth. Last rule. How many of you think interest rates are really cheap on mortgages right now? Historically, no question. But let me be clear about something the banks don't want you to know. There is a reason banks are the biggest building in any city, in any state, in any country in the world. Two reasons. A, it's the golden rule, and not the one you learned in church. He who has the gold makes the rules. Possession is 9/10. Number two, they know what to do with the money. Now, contrary to popular belief, they don't take your money and put it in a drawer that says Paul's money. They deploy that money, but we don't. You know, 83% of all bank accounts are non-interest bearing accounts. You want to know why that is? Because the average family in America makes $60,000 a year, $59,700, $5,000 a month. Their expenses are $4,000, and they spend $150, $200 a week on going out to dinner. And well, we used to spend $150, $200 a week going out to dinner and going to the movies. But the bottom line is they only end up with maybe $300, $400, $500 a month left at the end of the month, right? So they think, who cares if they're making interest on that? That's not how banks make money. It's about volume and velocity. They're actively putting your money to work. FYI, every night at the close of business, they loan their money out to other banks in what they call an overnight lending rate at a 0.5 percentage point a day. So we think they're making money that giving us 0.5% or 1% and charging us 3% on a mortgage, 4% on a car loan. Oh, no. They're making an average of 180% a year, not including fees, on the use of your money. So our system does one other thing that's important. It takes every dollar you have, every day you have it, and puts it to work for you to do 4 things. Strategic payoff, which debt to pay, how much and when, interest flow, interest accumulation, and interest cancellation. So it literally helps you bank like a bank by leveraging the use of your money, just like a bank would do, specifically in real time to help you offset that debt. So that gives you a little bit of sample.
Thank you, Rich. So if you want to get really serious about this, it sounds like Rich has got a sophisticated program. I don't know.
That was really why you're fired up, sorry.
I don't know anything more about it. It's just an FYI for you guys. If you're interested, you can get a hold of Rich. He's going to be hanging around here. He's got flyers and everything. I want to end. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. I want to end with one last idea. Who knows my big why? You remember what I said it was, Jay?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Could all of you say your big why right now? Yeah. If you were asked. My big why is to change your life. As a broker, as VOP, now as the retired broker, the retired OP, my goal, Vicki knows my big why, is to change your life. My relationship with Vicki has been a long time. I hope I can help change her life, and she changed my life. That's what I hope. So when we take this financial money, we talk about wealth building, getting out of debt. It's more than just like, here's a new financial diet. It's really a lifestyle I want you to embrace. And some people in that office are really grabbing it. I really want you to convict yourself to do it. And I don't want you to have reasons why you can't. I want to have reasons why you can. So I took it another step, and I looked at the possibility. We need $50,000 to do it solo. Or what if you were to grab 2 people and each of you had 25? And this year you committed to each say 25,000, 2,000 a month. you buy a property. Or what if there's 3 of you? And one is 20-20-10. Or 5 of you, each one of you has 10,000. Or what if 5 of you don't have much money? You each have 5. And you put that together and somebody puts in 25. Creating a partnership. Vicki and I have played with this. And anybody looking to do any combination of one of these, if you need a partner, you can ask me or Vicki. We'll ask around the office, or I will. I have said I would be willing to put in half the money to make a house deal work. But I don't want anything to do with managing it. Somebody, we had to create an LLC for any of these, an LLC, somebody has to manage it. Who's gonna oversee it? Contracting, landscaping, leases, all that. If there's more than one in the group, somebody has to compensate a manager for the group. Maybe an extra %, maybe an extra dollar amount to property management. And then you have to have what's very important is a buyout agreement. You might want to start with a group like this and say, in 3 years, we're going to sell it. And these people here with $5,000, they have a 10% interest in that, don't they? So they get 10% on the profit. We bought it for 2, and sold it for $250, we made $50,000. They might get 5,000 back, company money, maybe. In any case, think about how you might want to create your own, or do this with your family, brothers and sisters. Years ago, I had several do that. They got their aunts and uncles, and they said, if every one of us kicks in 10,000, we can buy a house. Let's start owning real estate. What was never mentioned in my presentation is what's the commission on a 250 home? What's the commission on a $200,000 home? 6. Where's that 6 factor in? Somebody makes it, right? Could be you. So with that in mind, I'm trying to help you think, how can I get going? In what capacity? Not having any money is not an excuse. Right? So I want you to get debt free, start investing, create a legacy for you to retire. Any comments? We close.
Could I add one thought to that?
Yes.
Probably not. One of the things that it wasn't time, I can talk with anybody about it, but obviously our product can be used in a strategy to help you build multiple properties. But even on an individual level, on average, with the same budget you have, leveraging the same dollars you have, our system is so efficient, it will typically reduce your overall weighted average interest rate on every single debt you have, including a mortgage, to about 1%. Now, we can eliminate 2/3 of the interest you have. That means 2/3 of those dollars can go more quickly to principal. So you can build equity faster. Typically, the payoff would probably be 7, 8, 10 years on a 30-year mortgage, but you're building equity 3 times faster. From a sales standpoint for your clients, you're always looking for a competitive advantage. So imagine now being able to say, Paul, Mr. and Mrs. Client, now I'm going to help you find your dream home. I'm going to be the first agent ever in your life that's going to show you how to be able to own it free and clear in a fraction of the time.
7 to 12 years.
Exactly. So if they can pay it off faster or build an equity faster, they can trade up faster. They can buy a second home. They can start their own real estate investment portfolio. But it gives you more of that long-term trusted advisor relationship because you stay embedded in their life and top of mind over the long haul, not just the transaction itself. So that's a really powerful sales aspect of it.
Like I opened the first series of Debt Free Fast. I became a counselor as a realtor. That was what I did with every client. Everyone was unique. Some were in debt, some were not. If they were in debt, I counseled them on how to get out of debt. If they weren't, I counseled them on how to make more money. They need to invest their money, where do they put it? I mean, there's people out there that are married, they have no children, they have no debt, they have money, they don't know what they're doing with it. It just sits in a pile. They're losing an opportunity. Really, it's because they don't know. They need you to help them. Buy real estate. So, anyway, that's it then, no other
Awesome.
questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Oh, is there a marker on that whiteboard by any chance?
Right here.
Guys, I have this program. I bought it 13 years ago. And I had a brand new 30-year refinanced mortgage that was way too much money. And
No,
I've got it down to pay out in 7 years.
Yeah, and I have my first investment.
This program that he's talking about.
Pictures.
Here's a little interesting little snapshot that won't let you sleep very well tonight. Let's say you have a 3% mortgage for a second. Is that super low, as we talked about? You need to forget about this number. Note rate means nothing. Interest volume is everything. I was one of the people that helped the action that actually changed settlement statements to closing disclosure forms to have to put the tip, the true interest percentage you're paying. So when we look at this, let's say your payment is $1,000, just for argument's sake, and 700 is interest. You divide that out, you don't get 3%. You get 70%. Okay? The average person is paying between 50 and 80% interest volume on every single payment. We're thinking, oh, 3% so low. Historically, it's incredibly low, right, Paul? But relative to what it's actually costing you, debt service. You know, when we try to not look at the truth in lending statement because that number is so scary. Even on a 2.5%, 3.5% loan, you're still going to probably pay back $150,000, $200,000 in interest depending on the size of the loan. So people say, how many times have you heard this recently? Rates are so low, it's practically free. Okay, free, $100,000, $200,000 interest is not free. It's only made to look that way. And by the way, it's by design, because when these long-term loans were developed in the 40s, they realized the average person lived in their home 7.2 years. It's called 7-year itch. The average person moves in 7 years, they get divorced in 7 years. It's a physiological fact, and they knew it. So they intentionally waited as much interest as humanly possible during the entire period of time the average person lived there. And every single time somebody refinances, they reset that clock. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't refinance, but I discourage a lot of my clients from doing it. Unless they're pulling out for home improvement or a debt consolidation or something, bear in mind, if they actually have a $300,000 loan and they go from 4.5% to 3%, you're like, oh my God, that's incredible. That's only the note rate. It's not the interest volume. So first and foremost, 73% of all people with 24 years or more go back to 30 years. Now they just extended the life of that debt, 4, 5, 6, 8 years. It's not gonna help them get out of debt. Number two, they increase the cost, right? They roll the cost into it, 4, 5, 6, 8 grand. They've increased the balance and they've extended the term. But here's the worst part. They could reduce their note rate, but they actually increased the amount of interest volume they're paying in each payment because they reset the clock on the front end of that loan. So if any of you refinanced in the last maybe year or so, okay, do this when you go home. Take your old mortgage statement and your new mortgage statement. And I want you to look at them side by side. Even if you reduce your note rate from like what was the rate before?
4.7, no, was it 4.75? I think.
And the
now
new one
it's
is?
3.3, but
Okay.
I was just looking at this morning, how much less goes to principal now
Got
than it did.
You got it. So here's the scary part. Yeah, the loan probably, if you just rate and term even didn't pull money out, the balance went up, and et cetera. But this is the scary part. When you look at the actual amount of interest volume, you've actually increased the amount of percentage of interest that's going to the bank than it did before, even at a lower rate. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it means unless you leverage the money you've saved and put that actively to work to double down. And that's why people all the time, Dave Ramsey, it never aired, by the way, it was the most fun show I ever did. He's like, well, that can't work. And I'm like, it's not interest rate. It's how you cancel the interest you'd otherwise be paying and beat the bank at their own game. So banks probably hate the crap out of us, by the way, but we love it because it's great for the consumer. But instead of marketing the consumer, we market through financial professionals, real estate agents, loan officers, financial planners, insurance agents, because you already have the relationship with your client. You've spent however long pulling your hand through the process, right? It's almost that you love and hate each other. But the fact is you already have the relationship, so it's a great little angle there. So that's the big thing. It's all about interest volume. It's not interest rate. It's how much is the debt service costing you. But if we can reduce that overall weighted average interest to somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 1.5%. If a bank called you right now and said, I can take every debt you have and refinance it to 1%, how quick would you be over there? We're able to effectively do the same thing, though, without requiring they have to refinance, just by gamifying the leverage use of their money
Well,
efficiently.
look what it costs to refinance too. I mean,
Thank you,
you're
Paul.
getting all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
those charges that are tacked back onto the loan, on the back end of the loan. By the time you look at what you paid in that interest over that occurring period, it's scary. It really is scary. That's what made me go after this program. And it just.
You guys have such a great resource here too. You don't realize, because I've been in this process a long, long time. It's not the age, it's the mileage, I promise you.
No, we
But-
realize that.
It's all about understanding the impact of that, because, but again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So if you can take this methodology, this strategy, this formula, but you can increase the likelihood that you're actually going to follow through. Remember, results is where the rubber meets the road. Nothing matters if you don't do it consistently.
Just a quick question, Paul, and for both of you. So let's say you have 10 houses, now it's worth 10 million, probably it's worth 2.3 million, right? And at what point do you make a decision? Because obviously owning a lot of rental properties is a lot of hard work, a lot of hassles. You're dealing with rental, people that rental, and I've rented before too, but I always say people that rent, they're a different kind of beast, right? It's different setup. So at what point do you say like, oh, maybe I'm just gonna sell 5 of the properties, take $1 million and invest it somewhere else, and actually just rather get the 4 or 5% and just
Funny you should ask that.
just like, and not have that stress all next week.
I'm taking my biggest property and I'm listing it and selling it, so I'll have a pile of cash.
You're gonna put it somewhere or?
I don't know yet. I'm gonna look for an opportunity, because in my opinion, there's a lot of people right now upside down that the banks have a lot of distressed property, but they're not telling anybody. Because they're giving them gracious extensions on their loan payment, but they're way behind. And they're gonna want their money back, they're not gonna let them live there for free. So they're gonna add it on the back or something. But the banks are not, because of the political atmosphere, they're not foreclosing on them because of COVID. Oh, well, they lost their job, their restaurant shut down, don't beat them up even more, take their house away. Well, I think there's a lot of those people that are in trouble. And we're gonna see them come up. And I think next year we might see distressed property again.
Banks aren't gonna do anything throughout the end of this year, but.
And I want to be in a position to buy them cash.
Paul, it's interesting, the University of Florida, their business school, I was invited there a couple of years back, 2-3 years ago. And we talked about 2 things that are, I hate to say this, but intentionally designed to mislead you. One is called rate of return and market myth, okay? Here's one example. When you invest money and you look at the Wall Street Journal, look at Money Magazine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, this is the flaw in this rate of return myth, okay? So let's say as an example, what's your name?
JB.
JB, okay. JB, for argument's sake, let's say you have $100,000 and you give it to me to invest, and somehow magically I get you 100% rate of return, okay? So 100% rate of return. What's 100% of 100? Okay, so in year 1, you now have 200 grand. Pretty good, you're happy. But next year, things that go up, go down. We lose 50%. Only half of what we gain, but what's 50% of 200? So what are we back to? Okay, now I can run this out, but this is what happens. The same formula happens every year. It's up 100, down 50, down. So we started at 100,000, we end up at 100,000. How much did you make? Oh, so you think. But in the real world, in the mathematical representation world, in that prospectus, in the Wall Street Journal, in Money Magazine, they're going to say 100 minus 50 plus 100 minus 50 is 100 divided by 4 is 25. So legally, they can disclose that the rate of return of that instrument earned a 25% rate of return when you earn 0. And in reality, when you take into account fees, costs, loads, expenses, tax implications, you probably lost 25%. Just think about that for a minute. That's one of the challenges. Here's the last one. This one's called market myth. Now, how many of you were in the business back in 2008? Okay, good times, right? So let's say you got a $100,000 condo. Now there's areas that dropped as much as 40, 50, even 60%. So let's take worst case scenario. This person has a $100,000 condo and it dropped 60%. Pretty bad times, right? Now, you drop 60%, what do you got now? Now, common sense would tell you that if you lost 60%, you gotta at least get the 60% back to get to zero. But it doesn't work that way, because you lost 60% of 100. What's 60% of 40? 24. You need to get 150% positive return to get back to 100. What do you think the likelihood is you're gonna get 15% a year for the next 10 years without a hiccup? See, this is why it's so important that we leverage efficiently the use of our money. Because like 401ks could go, oh, my 401k's back up. Yeah, because you've been continuing to deposit to it. One bad year can wipe you out, which is why you've got to leverage the money more efficiently. You've got to get out of the debt. It's not a gravy train. I'm a massive, I own 27 properties in my life. Huge advocate for real estate and other things in equities, and I started a crypto company, all that stuff. I'm an advocate for that. But I'm telling you, until you understand the rules to the game, you can't win, you can't compete. I don't care if it's Monopoly, but it's all set up for us to lose. I'm huge about the financial education, which is why I love what he did, but it's all about, you're not gonna go back and get your master's degree in finance, but you gotta deploy strategies that can help take the guesswork out of it. Which one thing we love about our platform is it builds all these systems and strategies that banks use at the push of a button, so it's powerful stuff. But I'm geeky about this stuff because I love it. There's a way to reveal it, you'll never look at it the same way again. You ever seen that FedEx symbol, the FedEx car?
The arrow.
You ever seen the arrow in it? That there's like a forward arrow? Once you see it, you can never not see it again. Once you start seeing some of this stuff, you look at it optically different. It's all about leverage, it's all about efficiency, and don't guess. Be a strategy, follow this stuff, and results will
Would you
come.
guys be interested in
I'd love to come back to you
taking
some other one.
class on that?
Thank you so much, awesome.
Would you be interested in that? All right, we'll set it up with Rich next time he's over here.